You are your own sculpture, the Stoic path of self-creation. Have you ever felt like no one is coming to save you? Like you're standing in the middle of a life you didn't choose, but one you must now carry, shape, and somehow make meaningful? There's a quiet moment in every man's life when he realizes the world isn't going to hand him peace, purpose, or strength. He has to carve it out of himself. And what if I told you that you were never meant to be discovered? You were meant to be built. That every strike against you, every doubt, every failure, is not the enemy but the chisel. This video is not motivation, it's a philosophical mirror. A silent letter written to the part of you that is tired of waiting for the world to give permission. Here we explore what the Stoics already knew, that man is not a product of fortune but of his response to it. To sculpt yourself, to be your own raw material and your own artist, is perhaps the most demanding form of freedom. And yet, it's the only one that doesn't collapse when the world does. In the next few minutes, you will take a Stoic journey, inward, a journey toward the self-made self. And there is a hidden truth buried near the end of this video, a single Stoic insight that, once understood, may forever change how you respond to adversity, to rejection, and to the long silence of effort without reward. But it will only be revealed if you stay until the final moments. If you're ready to commit to this path of inner mastery, write this in the comments right now. I am the sculptor and the stone. This small phrase is not just a comment, it's your ritual of initiation, a vow to the ancient art of building yourself. Also, like this video and subscribe to this channel. It's not just about numbers, it's how the algorithm spreads these reflections to other minds seeking clarity. Every click becomes part of a ripple effect, fueling a community of men committed to discipline, depth, and inner transformation. And if you're here, reading these words, you belong to that brotherhood. Many men use these daily Stoic letters, not as content, but as a kind of modern therapy, philosophical self-care for those who walk through life alone but not lost. Stay with me, because the second to last lesson in this video contains a rare Stoic key, not a motivational quote, but a principle powerful enough to unlock a quieter, stronger version of you, one you've been trying to reach for years. The man who builds himself knows he will bleed. The first truth of the self-made man is this: there is no glory without solitude, and no transformation without sacrifice. The modern world sells you an illusion. It tells you to manifest your dream life, to visualize abundance as if willpower alone could sculpt character. But the Stoics, men who walked through plagues, betrayal, exile, and the death of their children, knew otherwise. Epictetus, born a slave, never once asked the world for fairness. He asked only, "What is within my control?" This is where the work begins, not on the outside, but in the silent forge of your own mind. The sculptor doesn't blame the stone for being rough. He grips the chisel tighter. He steps into the workshop again. And if you are to be the sculptor of yourself, you must learn to love the dust, the resistance, and the pain that no one else sees. Because here's the secret they don't tell you. The self-made man doesn't emerge from motivation. He emerges from responsibility. He stops outsourcing blame. He stops waiting for praise. He stops needing to be understood. You don't become who you are by dreaming. You become by doing. You don't build inner strength by posting about resilience. You build it in silence when no one is watching, and everything inside you screams for ease. There will be days when you feel like nothing is working, when progress is invisible, when others are chosen and you are not. But the Stoics taught us this: if you endure with clarity, the gods cannot ignore you, because the world bends, not to the loud but to the consistent, not to the perfect but to the prepared. So ask yourself, are you sculpting your future or scratching at the surface of someone else's dream? Are you choosing what is difficult now so that your soul may become unbreakable later? Because self-construction is not a single act, it is a way of life, a daily discipline. Every habit, every response, every rejection you endure with calm is one more strike of the hammer, shaping the man you claim you want to be. The next insight may destroy a lie you've been told since childhood. Stay with me. This isn't about building a brand. It's about building a soul that does not collapse when life gets hard. Stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. There is a subtle poison in modern life. The idea that you must be validated before you act. We wait for credentials before we speak, for followers before we create, for signs before we commit. But a sculptor doesn't wait for applause to begin. The first strike. He begins because the vision inside him demands to exist. The Stoics were clear. Virtue is not a performance, it's a decision. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he wrote privately to himself, "Waste no more time arguing. What a good man should be. Be one." And that's what it means to choose yourself. It means you stop negotiating with mediocrity. You stop waiting for the external world to confirm what your internal world already knows, that you were made for more than drifting. The man who builds himself doesn't beg for opportunities, he trains for them. He doesn't seek permission to grow, he prepares in silence. He doesn't complain that no one sees him, he sharpens himself until blindness becomes impossible. You must stop seeking to be discovered and start seeking to be undeniable. Think of the mountain, it doesn't move to be seen, it simply stands. The self-made man must become like this, anchored, immovable in purpose, indifferent to noise. Because here's the hidden cost of waiting to be chosen. Your life becomes someone else's design. The Stoics knew that freedom begins when you stop assigning your fate to the opinions of others. Seneca once warned that a man who follows the crowd ends up at the slaughterhouse with them. So today you have a choice. Keep sculpting a version of yourself designed for approval, or start carving a soul that can walk through storms unshaken. And when no one claps, no one believes, and no one notices, good. That's how you know you're building something real. What comes next may change how you respond to failure for the rest of your life. The journey is about to deepen. Failure is not the opposite of progress, it is the material. There's a common delusion among those who never begin. That failure is evidence of inadequacy. That stumbling proves you are not ready. That falling means you are not meant for the climb. But the Stoic understands, failure is the clay. Without it, there is nothing to shape. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." This was not poetic optimism, it was operational reality. The obstacle becomes the path, not despite its resistance, but because of it. If you want to sculpt strength, you must be willing to work with shattered stone. If you want to become unshakable, you must be shaken, again and again, until your foundations are no longer external. The self-made man is not one who avoided defeat. He is the one who repurposed it. He does not romanticize failure, but he refuses to be defined by it. He sees every failure as a hammer blow, not one that breaks, but one that shapes. Here's a paradox to remember. The more you fail in pursuit of what matters, the more precisely you are sculpting your true form. The more discomfort you face willingly, the clearer your character becomes. And still you will be tempted to withdraw, to numb, to justify why it's easier to watch than to build. But the Stoics remind us, comfort is rarely your ally. You were not built for safety. You were built for self-construction. Look at the statue of the self-made man. He is both builder and material. He is incomplete by design, and so are you. But incompleteness is not failure, it is invitation. You are not behind. You are simply still being shaped. The next idea may rewire your entire understanding of discipline. Because the truth is, motivation fades. But there's something deeper that doesn't. Discipline is devotion without applause. We live in a culture addicted to instant returns. Start a habit, post about it, go to the gym, film a set, read a quote, share it like you've lived it. But the Stoic path, the path of the self-made man, is not concerned with optics. It is a quiet, daily warfare against your lesser self. Discipline is not about intensity, it's about identity. It's what you return to when emotion fades. It's who you are when no one is looking and nothing feels exciting. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Most men don't lack opportunity. They lack the courage to be consistent in the dark. To sculpt yourself requires thousands of repetitions that no one will witness. And that's exactly why they matter. Discipline is the daily carving of your character, even when the results are invisible. You get up, you show up, you do the hard thing again, not because you feel like it, but because you've sworn to shape a man you're proud to become. And if you're honest, you'll notice something strange happens over time. You begin to respect yourself, not because you succeeded, but because you kept your word. Not because you won, but because you stayed in the fight longer than your excuses did. In a world of dopamine addiction and performance posturing, the Stoic man becomes rare. Because he's anchored to effort, not outcome. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to always be productive, but you must always be becoming. Up next is a revelation the Stoics understood deeply, but most modern men ignore. This might explain why your progress feels stagnant, even though you're doing everything right. The world doesn't need to change. Your perspective does. If you are waiting for the world to become fair before you commit to excellence, you'll wait forever. If you believe success only arrives when circumstances align, you've already lost control of your life. The Stoics mastered one thing that most modern minds fear: the ability to reframe. When Seneca was exiled, he wrote his most powerful essays. When Epictetus was crippled, he built a philosophy of unbreakable resilience. When Marcus Aurelius led Rome through plague and war, he turned inward and wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The sculptor does not complain about the quality of the stone. He adapts. He finds beauty in the limitations. He turns flaws into features. The self-made man must understand this. It is not your conditions that shape you. It is your interpretation of them. We suffer more in imagination than in reality, not because life is easy, but because we forget that our lens determines our experience. You may not control the economy. You may not control betrayal, loss, or pain, but you can control what it means to you. You can turn failure into fuel. You can turn silence into sanctuary. You can turn rejection into redirection. And when you shift perspective from victim to sculptor, you reclaim your agency. Here's how you know you're growing. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I build from this?" The Stoic path is not a detachment from reality. It is an intimate embrace of it, without illusion. You don't need to run. You need to refine. Stand where you are. Face what you've been avoiding. Chisel clarity from chaos. What comes next will challenge your idea of what strength really looks like. And it may just free you from one of the oldest lies about masculinity. Real strength is the capacity to hold stillness under pressure. Modern culture sells strength as dominance, loudness, status, control. But the Stoics taught something radically different, something quieter, harder, and infinitely more enduring. True strength is the ability to remain still in the middle of a storm, not passive, not frozen, but deliberately unmoved by what does not deserve to move you. Marcus Aurelius commanded armies and ruled over millions, yet his journal entries weren't about victory. They were about restraint. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is not weakness. This is sovereignty. To sculpt yourself means to master the space between stimulus and response. It means not reacting just because you're provoked. It means choosing your inner posture before choosing your next move. Because anyone can flex when they're admired. Anyone can speak when they're praised. But the self-made man can stay silent when he's misunderstood, still when he's insulted, calm when he's challenged. This is the kind of strength that doesn't erode, it compounds. Ask yourself, are your emotions sculpting you, or are you sculpting them? Do you act with principle or with impulse? Because the man who responds instead of reacts builds a fortress within himself, one that cannot be burned by gossip, panic, or the chaos of weak men. Stillness is not stagnation. It is control. It is what separates the sculptor from the stone. And every time you remain still when you could explode, every time you hold the line when it's easier to fold, you are proving to yourself, you are not ruled by the world, you are ruled by your will. The next idea may finally explain why you sabotage your own growth, and it will shine a stoic light on the fear behind your perfectionism. Perfectionism is a disguise for fear, not a standard for excellence. So many men never begin because they believe they must first become worthy. They delay action in the name of standards, but the Stoics would call it by another name: fear in disguise, fear of judgment, fear of inadequacy, fear that their effort will not measure up, and worse, that they will be seen trying. But Epictetus reminds us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. There is no mention of perfect. There is only a demand for clarity and action. The sculptor does not wait for the perfect tool or perfect weather or perfect confidence. He begins. Because he understands, excellence is not the absence of flaws, it is the mastery of momentum. You will stumble. You will make mistakes. You will be misunderstood and underestimated. Good. That means you are in the arena. That means you have stopped polishing the idea of yourself and started forging the reality of who you are becoming. Perfectionism whispers, "You're not ready." Stoicism answers, "No one ever is. Do it anyway." The self-made man learns to embrace incompleteness, not as failure, but as fertile ground. Every draft, every repetition, every awkward, imperfect attempt is a necessary step toward embodiment. And here's what the world never tells you. You don't become ready by waiting. You become ready by moving. So don't delay the work. Don't delay the conversation. Don't delay the version of you that exists on the other side of action. Perfection is an illusion. Progress is real. And every time you trade fear for movement, you are chiseling away the false and revealing what is essential. What comes next contains a Stoic insight so rare it may permanently shift how you define success. The penultimate lesson of this journey is the one most men never learn, because they're too busy chasing noise to hear it. Success is not something you chase. It's something you become. You've been told to hustle, to grind, to chase the dream. But what if I told you that success, real success, is not something out there to pursue? It's the natural consequence of becoming someone that reality cannot ignore. The Stoics never defined success by outcome. They defined it by alignment. Alignment with nature, with reason, with virtue. Marcus Aurelius didn't care if Rome praised him. He cared only that he ruled himself. Seneca warned that many men appear to be rising when, in fact, they are only inflating. Epictetus said that if you want to be free, you must first learn to despise what enslaves you. To the Stoics, success is not about arriving somewhere impressive. It's about living each day so precisely aligned with your principles that external validation becomes unnecessary. So pause. What if you stopped chasing recognition and instead started embodying discipline so consistently that results became inevitable? What if your life stopped being a resume and started becoming a mirror of your values? The self-made man doesn't live to impress. He lives to express the depth of what he believes. He's not building a brand. He's building a backbone. He's not optimizing for attention. He's cultivating direction. And when he walks into a room, he doesn't need to announce himself. He brings with him the silent gravity of a man who knows who he is. That is success. Not noise, but presence. Not perfection, but integrity. Not applause, but self-respect. And when you finally stop trying to be seen, something unexpected happens. You become worth seeing. Because who you are begins to speak louder than anything you could post, wear, or say. This is the insight the modern world misses. Success is not a destination. It is the quiet evidence that you have kept your word to yourself, day after day, year after year, and the man who keeps his word becomes inevitable. Now the final letter awaits, the closing reflection, the last carving of today's sculpture. Stay with me as we enter the final block, your challenge, your reward, and your stillness. The sculpture is never finished, and that is the E-T-E-E point. If you've made it this far, you are not like most. Most click away when the truth gets too quiet. Most abandon the path when it stops giving instant reward. But you stayed. You endured. You listened. And for that, let me say this. You are already becoming the man you seek. not because you've arrived, but because you've chosen to stay in the forge when others ran from the heat. The self-made man is not sculpted in one day, one breakthrough, one motivational surge. He is chiseled moment by choices made in solitude, and by letters like this, reflections written not to impress you, but to awaken you. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are in process, and in a world that trades depth for noise, your very presence here is a quiet rebellion. So now, I ask one final thing of you. As a marker of your commitment, write this phrase in the comments. I shape myself with virtue, not applause. That phrase is your final strike for today, your signature on this inner sculpture. And I will be there, reading, watching, honoring the men who walked the full path with me. If this video spoke to something real in you, share it. Not for the algorithm, but because ideas become eternal when passed from one mind to another. Think of someone, a brother, a friend, a father, a son, who needs this clarity. Send this letter to them. Let it be a moment of pause in their chaos. Let it be a hammer blow on their own block of stone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself why. This isn't just a channel, it's a temple of reflection, a meeting place for those who have outgrown the noise. Be part of the few who return daily, not to consume but to contemplate. Because in this space we don't chase trends, we return to principles. And we speak to the part of you that doesn't need decoration, only direction. This video is now ending, but before you move on, sit with the music that follows. Don't rush, don't click away. Let the silence do what the words cannot. Let it settle, let it echo, let it carve, because the sculpture is never finished and neither are you.